about music. You will be inspired to think higher, realize your gifts. Join the music and Michelle and Gina. Turn this up and through your speakers. It's the music of music.
And good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever it is that you are and that you happen to be listening and watching. We here at the Muses Behind the Music, thank you so much for your continued support of what it is that we are doing to bring artists of all walks, of all faiths, of all genres of music, of the performing and visual arts world, this platform that supports what it is that they are doing and telling their story. And so today, before we even begin with this extremely special guest, to me and to so many people, but specifically to me because Dr. Barbara Baker, I, had the privilege, and I was nervous, and I was anxious and excited to, um, you know, uh, come after her at Eleanor Roosevelt High School after so many years that she built this phenomenal music education program, choral music education program at the school, and left it virtually easy for me walking in. And that's not always the case, as so many of you as educators understand and know that you can inherit programs that are disastrous, that are non-existing, and that you're starting from the ground up. And there was such a beautiful and firm foundation that she had created with these young people. And not to say that it did not bring its challenges, because it did, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But I just really respect this woman and the work that she has done for over 30 plus years as a public school educator, and the work she continues to do now as a clinician, and continuing to be the composer that she is, and directing, and all that, and organist, y'all. I mean, there's some cute little doodads that I didn't know about Dr. Baker that I found out as I was studying for this interview. So before we get going, what I would love for you to do is make sure that if you are on YouTube, that you have subscribed. Share this for all of the Facebook viewers. Like it, love it. Bring somebody else in to watch this. I'm hoping and believing that you will receive a golden nugget or golden nuggets from this conversation that I know is going to bless you as much as it is and will bless me. I don't even know where to start, because for real, the bio is so full. And so I cannot read to you all of the wonderful things. I'm highlighting just a few elements because it's extensive, and you're going to get to know her all the more as we speak for a few moments with each other. But Dr. Baker is an internationally known conductor, educator, and arranger. Internationally. That's important. And who conducts, consults, lectures, and serves as an adjudicator for choirs, school districts, and ensembles throughout the United States and abroad. And I know that when she was at Eleanor Roosevelt, you talk about all the trophies. If you walked into the office that aligned the room, and I left it there, with, these first place. That's all it said. First place, all over the place, because that is what she did with all of her choral aggregations. And this was for over 30 years in the school, and she conducted the chamber, women's, men concert, and gospel choirs before retiring in 2008, when I came in and took on the helms. She was American Choral Directors Association, a part of it, ACDA. and she did many presentations for them. Dr. Baker received her Bachelor of Music degree from the University of North Carolina at Greensboro, her master's degree from Teachers College, Columbia University, New York, whoop, whoop, and her doctorate degree, PhD, from the University of Maryland, where her dissertation was a treatment of Black gospel music styles between 1945 and 1975. I'd love to speak to her even more. I never shared that with her about what that dissertation was about. So if you still have it, Dr. Baker, love to be able to read that. In 2012, she served as a juror for the World Choir Games in Cincinnati, Ohio. That's huge. Love to get there too. She has conducted state and regional honor choirs in New York, Pennsylvania, Maryland, Nebraska, Louisiana, Texas, New Mexico, Kansas, Washington State, Virginia, as well in Canada. Recently, she served as the guest conductor and producer of 250 Years of Methodism in the United States, a choral tribute at the lovely Lane United Methodist Church of Baltimore in 2022. I mean, the bio just goes on. It's extensive and just full of so many blessings that the Creator has allowed her to be a part of, where her impact and her influence continues today. But I bet you didn't know this, because I didn't know it either. And here's a couple of fun facts. Dr. Baker was the opening act for Ike and Tina Turner at a small Greensboro nightclub in 1966. We'll talk a little bit about that. She was also a lead singer with a girl trio and a 5-piece combo called The 11th Hour that answered an ad in the Village Voice newspaper for a world tour. She toured Navy bases in San Juan, Puerto Rico, Argentina, Newfoundland, Keflavik, Iceland, Holy Loch, Scotland, Mendenhall, England, Naples, Italy, Sagonelia, Sicily, Canitro, Morocco. I mean, my God, all over the world. All of this before she decided, I'm about to go and teach in New York City and then come to the wonderful state of Maryland. Ladies and gentlemen, educators, musicians, everybody, no matter what walk of life you are in, I would love for you to please welcome Dr. Barbara Baker, my friend, my colleague, lover. How are you?
I'm well, thank you very much. And
Yeah.
thank you for having me.
Oh, no, I'm so glad that you were able to do that. And so listen, what people don't know that I'm about to share with them, right before we got on this, y'all know how I feel about technology, and we were having some technical difficulties here. And if you could have seen the two of us attempting to work through technical difficulties, I have absolutely no clue about it. But here we are, and look at what the Creator is doing, allowing us to meet at this time. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Thank you. Tell us though, because I'm going to jump right in onto the fun fact about working, well, not working with, but just doing the opening act for Ike and Tina. How did that come about?
Well, I was a freshman in college. My dorm resident advisor, was dating a guy who was a music promoter, and he needed an opening act for Ike and Tina Turner.
Mm.
And she said, Portia Annis, and she said, oh, there's a girl in my dorm that sings quite well and sings a lot of pop and stuff. So she asked me, and I said, of course. I mean, I was young and dumb. Who knew? And I think I got a McDonald's or a Big Mac or something. But the pay was I got to stay and see the show.
Yeah.
So I got to see Tina when she was really in her heyday. And I mean, she was just awesome. And the Ikeettes, and they had the strobe light when she would perform. So she was doing all her dancing, but with the strobe light, it made it look like herky jerky, like, I don't know, Michael Jackson.
Right.
It was just awesome. And I had just never seen any woman who could sing and dance like her. I mean, it was quite impressive. And, I mean, I went back to the dorm and it's like, okay, no big deal.
Another day after all of that. It's just a day in the life. I really think that, and I know that people like Tina Turner has influenced you know, the likes of Rihanna's and Beyonce's
Mhm.
and the young women who are out here, and they are really working it. Like they're giving us full-fledged performances. And had it not been for looking at the lives of someone like Tina,
Yeah.
I don't know if they would have
I mean,
created.
she put all of herself into that show.
Yeah,
She was spent at the end of the show,
yeah,
and she used to wear those real long wigs, and
yeah.
all the girls they would fling their hair back and forth. I was like, wow, look at this, look at this. Uh,
Tina said, "Whew, take it off." That's exactly what she had done.
yeah, it was good.
So, you know, it's here when I was giving descriptions of the show, I said the OG, which would be you. And here I come, you know, following behind. I must say that I don't know if I ever shared this with you. You know, when you're coming after someone, people like to always talk about, you know, you've got big shoes to fill. And in part of it, I used to always say, well, yeah. And then until I decided, you know, I've got my own shoes to fill. I've never tried to, you know, be anybody else other than who I was. But I appreciated so much in coming into the environment and you giving me space. There are some people who, you know, if things like that happen, they hover and
Yes.
they don't allow the person to figure it out. And I just appreciated that. And I just want to tell you that so much because, you know, I could define me. And, you know, I didn't feel like I had eyes looking in on me and saying, no, yes, do this, da, da. No, it was literally, you said, I'm done. I'm retired. Carry on. And I appreciated that. It was a struggle though.
Well, I know that water seeks its own level, and everybody has to find
Mhm.
their level.
Mm.
And you can't find that level if somebody is trying to guide you, shape you, corral you, funnel you.
Yeah.
You don't push on a river. The river goes where it wants to go.
Yeah.
I knew that I tried never to come to Roosevelt. I think I've been to Roosevelt in the 15 years I've been retired, maybe 4 times.
Right.
Um,
Right.
so that when my era was over, it was over.
Yeah.
And your era began. And I watched you from afar, and you were doing just fine. Everybody told me, you were doing a good job. And I know that when I followed the lady that I followed,
Mm.
the children were very upset that she had left them without giving them notice that she was going to leave. So when
Yeah.
I showed up in August of that next year, they were like, "Who are
Who
you?"
are you?
And I know that you came in under some weird circumstances,
Yeah.
and but I knew that you were going to be fine, and that if you needed help, you would yell out for help. And I tried to make clear that I was there to help you if you needed it, but
Yeah.
you didn't need it, you.
Yeah. And you always said that every time you visited, you would pop in and just say, "You doing good? Good to see you." And then you would go about, you know, whatever it was that because you were there for the side tech stuff that
Yes,
was there.
yes.
Yeah. And yeah, no, I sincerely um just appreciated knowing that you were in my corner, but there was not a hover. I had room. I love what you said about the river. Yeah, and it will rise to its own level.
Mhm.
So, what makes you such an incredible educator? What
Oh,
would people say? What because I've heard it. So when they say the name Barbara Baker and you think about you and your pathway, your journey, what makes you incredible?
ah, well, I think that's a bit much. I don't know that I'm incredible. I've just tried to be true to myself
Yeah.
and to fulfill the purpose that I thought God had for me. I know that I have been blessed and highly favored, and
Yeah.
I'm fun loving. I do love fun,
Mhm.
and I'm kind of a control freak, when it comes to my choirs, because
Mhm.
I want to make sure that everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing when they're supposed to be doing it.
Yeah.
Uh, and I always try to seek uh, resources. If you go into a lawyer's office and there are no books, you need
Mm,
to turn around and go back out
yeah.
because they need books. Lawyers need books to be able to reference things. And so I always tried to buy everything I could that had to do with what I was teaching.
Yeah.
And I always tried to go to every conference that I could. I went out to Aspen for a summer to spend working with Fiona Contino and meeting folks and conducting and doing things and go to every workshop that I could.
Mm-hmm.
So it was trying to get better every time
Yeah.
and trying to do the very best that I could. And that's all. It finally came to me, a few years into my teaching, which is um, you can only do the best you can on that day, on that given day.
Yeah.
You might have been better 2 weeks ago, or you might be better 2 weeks from now. But on
Mm.
this day, you have, and
Right.
that's all you can do. You give the people, the children, the audience, the people who are listening to you, you give them the best you have on that day.
Yeah.
And that's sort of been one of my mantras is I can only do the best I can on this day,
Yes.
and I won't worry about what I could do, what I should have done. That doesn't help.
Yeah.
So just go on and do the best you can on that day.
I read somewhere recently that some person on Instagram was making the comment that today I'm operating at 60%. I am giving you my 100. And I had to sit with that for a second because I thought, okay, that's all they have. That's their full capacity for today, for the moment,
Yes.
might be the 60%. And they're giving you all they have. And I was like,
That's
wow,
60%.
way. Yeah.
Well, it's one thing when I've never known a conductor who said, I prepared enough and the choir's good enough and I'm ready to go do the most perfect performance I'm ever going to do.
Yeah.
All the conductors that I know always said, if I just had one more
Oh
rehearsal,
my gosh.
I
Yes.
could have fixed that and
Yeah.
that and that and that. And
Yeah.
so it comes down to, but you didn't have another rehearsal.
Yeah.
It's rare that you get to cancel a performance because you're not ready
Right.
until you get ready to do it. So especially in the tight situation at Eleanor Roosevelt, where there were three of us performing, the orchestra, the choir, and the band.
Right.
When we locked in a concert date, there was no do-over. There was no,
No.
we have to postpone this until we can get ready. It was,
Mhm.
you better be ready or you won't do it.
Right.
So that was, so again, you knowing who you are and what you do, and knowing that I was on a panel with Richard Smallwood, Pearl Williams Jones,
Wow.
Lady uh, Jackson, Irene V. Jackson Brown, and a whole bunch of folks. And I really felt, oh wow, these are really fabulous. And I thought, well, I can't sing like Richard, I can't do like that, but I can do what I do.
Mhm.
And that's what I did. So,
And that's why you were there. Yeah. Good.
well,
And
I guess.
right. Many educators, they build these dynamic programs. And a lot of times of what I have seen, sometimes the fireworks isn't in the sound of their choirs. It's another component that the teacher has focused on, like scholarship. Some directors have thought, I'm going to build a choir program where people feel safe in here. They come into my room, they're learning about music, but I want to make sure that every student goes to school. And they have phenomenal, well known groups that have done that. What has been your focus when you decided, I want to build a lasting program?
I don't know that I ever thought to myself, I want to build a lasting program.
Mm.
As I said, every day was a challenge. And my main goal was to develop good musicians, good choral singers for church choirs, for community choirs.
Yeah.
And some of them went on to college and majored in music, great. But it was not my job to train them to become, opera singers or music theater participants. Although I did have opera singers and music
Right.
theater participants and all, I tried to give them the most solid education, well-rounded education. So they knew something about all styles of music. We sang in 7 foreign languages.
Yeah.
We sang lots of contemporary music. We sang the war horses. We sang
Mhm.
whatever was the hit of the day. We had I always did a pops variety concert where we could do
Yeah.
music, and I did that for my first concert, so I didn't have to worry about trying to teach a whole lot of vocal technique because they weren't going to use it on pop music. So anyway, but but I started, you start in
Right.
September and you try to work towards building a complete musician, not just a diva, but a
Yeah.
complete musician, somebody who understands theory. I do
Yes.
theory and sight singing and rhythms every day.
Hmm.
My kids had to write essays. I call them journal entries. Once a week, they would write a journal entry. I would put a prompt on the board.
Yeah.
I would read a book, maybe Anna Devere Smith's book about young artists, and take a quote from her book and ask them to respond to it,
Mm.
and ask them, questions, and then they had to write, because in this world you have to write. You
Yes, you
can't just
do.
be a singer and not be able to write a paragraph.
That's right.
So I tried to make a complete musician, a well-rounded person, and a
Hmm.
good world citizen. Somebody who could sing in somebody's church choir and be an asset, but
Yeah.
also who could praise their Lord with their voice, because
Yeah.
God is a singer. Is
Yes.
Zephaniah, 3:17 says, "And God will sing over you." So I knew that, God was
Yes.
going to be in the midst of all of this, and that I
Yeah.
wanted children to be able to sing wherever they were, wherever they
Yeah. Have you ever turned down anyone?
never,
Mm.
never. Anybody, anybody who could walk or get wheeled into my class,
You were in.
they were in. Now, were they in my top group? No, they had to audition again in that. But I always felt that there had to be a place for every child in your school who wanted to sing. Because let me tell you what happens to those children that you put out of your class because they can't sing. Guess
Mm.
what they become? Principals and guidance counselors.
My
So
God.
when you need them, the principal says, "I don't know why you need to have a lot of music. I didn't have music and I turned out just fine." Or
Mm.
guidance counselor who doesn't understand about a SSAA group or TTBB group. They don't know what those alphabets stand for. So they put a woman in your men's choir, or they put, any kid that's, just transferred into the school into your women's choir. It's
Yep.
like, no. So
Yeah.
you have to work with people who understand your program, and you
Yeah.
have to educate them, because like I said, every time you go to some place and somebody ask you what you do, and you say, "Well, I'm a musician, I'm a music teacher," and they say, "Oh yes, I remember Miss Jones. She said,
Mhm.
get that mic out from in front of you. You know you can't sing." Or
Like,
redbirds sing, but the bluebirds hum. And I knew that I was a bluebird, so I didn't feel good because I knew I couldn't sing. So
mm,
I never signed up for choir again. Once I got out of elementary school, I was like, I ain't never sing for anybody again.
mm,
So we do a disservice to our young people when we don't help them to find their voices and to help them understand that those notes, those dots on the page, they mean something. And
yeah,
it's like unlocking a language. That's all.
absolutely.
That's all it is.
Absolutely. So have you when I was at Roosevelt, I had a student who was deaf, and
Mhm.
she had one of the implants put
Mhm.
in, and she wanted to sing. And so she didn't have the space in her schedule to be a part, but I was doing one on one after school with her aide and whatnot. And it was so challenging because I was sitting there trying to research as much as I could, and she felt so very frustrated because she could hear the vibration, she could feel the vibration,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
couldn't really always get into the pitch, and it was, frustrating on both ends. That was probably, out of the 29 years of teaching, one of the most challenging moments that I've had, not because I actually had that same philosophy of everyone in, but I knew that this was a necessity,
Mhm.
of bringing her in, or, giving her something in
A
some way.
chance.
Yes,
Chance to experience music. Yeah.
yes,
Um,
absolutely. How
when
did
I
did you ever have anything of that magnitude?
Not quite, but I had a nearly blind student who actually wound up in my chamber choir.
What?
And she would hold the music very close to her eye, so
Right,
she memorized everything. And I took her on tour with us to Germany, and I assigned another student to be her sort of her aide. And
right,
I said, "Now don't let her walk into a wall, and
right.
don't make sure she's squared away." And her whole group took care of her.
Yeah.
But we in I don't know if you remember, but at Roosevelt, we put full spectrum light bulbs in the choir room, the band room, the orchestra, and the hallways on our
Mm,
hall, so that we could get full spectrum light, as bright a light as we could in our performance spaces.
Mhm.
And I did teach children who had hearing deficits. They were not profoundly deaf, but they had hearing deficits. But I took a workshop from Rodney Eichenberger.
Mm.
And he was talking about kids who didn't sing well, and he showed us how to use your hand and use their hand when they got close to the pitch and help them to get higher or lower, just
Mm.
by using their hand to help them. And I would think that teaching a deaf student or person who has a great profound hearing loss, that if they could feel the vibration and they knew they were getting close, if you could raise their hand and say, okay, this way. And I use that technique also in my church choir when I had people who'd never sung in their lives, but they wanted to sing. They wanted to sing hymns. And so I said, oh, yeah, we can work with that. So as I said, the audition for my church choir was, can you cook? If you could cook, you could be in my choir. And some of the guys would say, I can't cook, Barbara, but I said, do you know where to buy good food? And they would say, oh, yes. I said, then you're in the choir.
Well, you're definitely kind, because I don't know if I could, adopt that or even adapt.
Well, you put them. I had a kid who couldn't carry a tune in a bucket with a handle
Yeah.
as a freshman, but he loved to sing, and singing defined him.
Mhm.
So, but I took him in, and by the time he was a senior, he was in my chamber choir.
Yeah.
So often the fact that they don't sing well is not a function of they can't sing. It's just that they've never been taught. And they didn't find their voices as young people, like elementary school teachers, children. And so you have to help them find their voice and to understand the relationship between sound and pitch, and what's high, what's low, where it is in their voice.
Yeah. He also sounds like one who wanted it too. Like he had a purpose for it. So that made him work, I'm assuming.
It did. I actually went to the honors choir in Prince George's County. We had the honors choir. I went to the honors choir teacher and said, will you please take this kid? I will help him. And so the conductor said, Barbara, I will take this kid if you will come and be my assistant for free.
For free.
So because there was no money. So I was like, okay, kids in, I will come and help you.
Yeah.
So that kid got in, and because he eventually found his voice, by the time he was a senior, he actually was he auditioned and got into the chamber choir.
Wow. Wow. No names, but those are the ones that I would love when they come back and say, you did so much for me, for my confidence, for, just believing in myself that I could, because that's like that story right there. That would take me through forever. Like, really and truly, I'm serious. Like, he made it to chamber, and chamber is the highest group. So to be in that, that was some work that he did in there. What have you seen from the time you started teaching to this point that has changed so much?
Quite easily. Technology, and
Right.
social media.
Oh God.
We have no idea how vulnerable our children are based on what somebody says, or how many likes they get, or the anonymity of it all gives people a chance to be mean to others. Like in my day, when I was bullied, I turned around and we just had to go down. It's like,
Right.
we'll fight this out. I'm not taking this anymore. And I took it for as long as I could.
I can't see you as a fighter though, Barbara.
Oh yes. So I had two brothers. So, but nowadays the children, it's anonymous. And I was watching. I love tennis, and I was watching one of the tennis players. She won the U.S. Open a few years back, and she had to get off social media because people were picking at her and saying mean and nasty things. And when you think about it, young people are not. They're not equipped yet to handle those kinds of things. Even us old folks are not often equipped to handle those kind of just gratuitous attacks on your person, things that you can't control, how you look, how you walk, how you play, who your parents are. So those are the things that have really changed since I was in, the guns were not an issue for us.
Mm.
And I have to say, I don't know how, when I left Roosevelt 15 years ago, I don't know how you felt, but I never felt unsafe in Roosevelt. Never.
Yep. Right.
And I would stay, I mean, I got locked in the building one night. I was working, trying to prepare because it was like, oh Lord, let me get this music together and let me get this ready.
Wow.
So, but I never felt unsafe. But now I hear, when nobody was ever shot on my campus.
Yeah. No, I remember seeing the change happen in that community because when I first came in, I felt extremely safe.
Yeah,
And then there was this shift that went from the outside of all this violence right there, and
yeah.
it just started to trickle on the inside. And it's terrible that it was infiltrated in such a manner in such a short period of time.
Yes.
In such a short period of time. And I think that all of those things that you mentioned do play an effect. I mean, you're now being bullied over social media. So you come into school and you get ready to deal with the person or whatever it is that has put the stuff out on you that has gone all over the world. It's insanity to
Mm.
me, what these young people have to deal with. Not that the older, folk, we're not dealing with that too, but you're right. The process of it is entirely different. What have you seen that has, especially for us women conductors and educators, and we've always been in the education sector, and that we've always been welcomed. We haven't always been welcomed on stages, but what have you seen as a shift, from when you first started into this career field to now for women?
Well, I do see a broadening of opportunities for young women.
Mhm.
One of my former students, Dr. Hannah Sy, is now head of choral activities at Ithaca.
Oh,
And she's going to be conducting on the Carnegie Hall stage, and she's doing some things. And I've had other students who've gone on to do things that are in male-dominated areas.
yeah,
So I think women have a much more that we have much more access now than
yeah,
when I first started uh,
yeah.
to things like conducting all states or conducting all Easterns and regionals and choirs like that.
Mhm.
We have access to doing international things that many times they'd say, well, a woman can't travel to Indonesia. It's a 17-hour trip, and
You're not gonna make it.
yeah,
What?
I was like, well, okay, I think I'll go.
Right, right, right. Is that a part of the personality that says, "You tell me I can't, I'm gonna tell you I will"?
Well, I don't know if it's that. I think it really is. Sometimes you're just, it's like God watches out for you in a way that you don't know.
Amen,
And
amen.
when I was asked, I was actually a juror in Cincinnati with Bernice Johnson Reagan and some other
Mhm.
really wonderful choral and singers. Um, uh, the lady from Indonesia said, we sing a lot of gospel here, but we don't sing it well. Will you come and help us? I
Yeah.
said, oh, sure, thinking, not having a clue how far it was to go to Indonesia. And so a year later, she actually invited me to come. And
Wow.
so I was like, well, okay, I'll come. I mean, there's something about facing your fears, even though you don't think of it quite as a fear until you actually get into it. Like I was halfway around the world thinking, I'm by myself. Oh,
Yeah.
and I was very, very lucky that my hostess, checked out the hotel where I was going to stay. She checked the room out before I went into my room. Uh,
Mm.
she made sure that I had the best of best and that I was safe. Uh,
Yes.
so again, those are things that many times they just wouldn't invite a woman. And I was the first woman. In fact, when I
Wow.
taught in Mondovi, Italy, they called me and said, Francisco Nunez from the Young People's Chorus of New York has asked us to hire you to come and work with our singers. And I thought, me? And they said, yeah, you. And they said, well, we needed somebody who could teach him gospel, but also we wanted a woman. So
Mm.
I got to go because I was a woman and I knew something about gospel.
The beautiful advantage of being a woman. It worked. I
Yeah.
love that. But also, a talented one, a knowledgeable one too. I don't want to ever make sure that we undermine that, because you were a full package to it. So, and then the bonus was that you are a woman in doing all of these things, and that's wonderful. Recruitment, I know so many educators who are watching this who are like, how, especially after coming out of the pandemic. I know that there are things that you were doing, and pandemic wasn't even a thing when you were teaching, but you were doing that. Those strategies can still be applicable and work today. How did you maintain, how did you grow your numbers? What drew in the students to your program? Because when I inherited it, you had 5 choirs. And I came with 5, the men, women chamber, plus there were choirs that were student led, but you were over those organizations too. So how did you get the students to come?
Well, I tell people laughingly that I always felt like a prostitute during recruitment season. Take me, uh, because at Roosevelt they had like 80 electives that kids could take, and choir was always music was an elective. So you had to compete against forensic and television and all kinds of science classes and things. So I think we all have to understand that the students that you have are your best recruiters, because you always ask them, do you like this class? And they would say, oh, yes. I said, well, go get your friends to come.
Yeah.
And for me, I always rewarded them by taking them on trips. So I would say, now, you want somebody to talk to on this trip. So you better go ask your friends to come and be with you. So you have somebody to talk to you on the plane when we fly to Germany, or when we go to California or Mexico, or, Toronto, someplace. So asking your students to be your recruiters is the best thing that I was able to do. Also, to have student-friendly concerts. As I said, we did a Pops Variety concert in the fall, so kids could get to see a program. We sang in the halls in the mornings. We would, once a week, we would sing. I'd take a group out there and we would sing to greet people as they came to school. I would say we had parties. I don't know if they can do that now, but we had great parties.
Yes.
And we would have, we didn't have any pizza. We always had food that would represent who you were and what your culture was.
Yes.
So if I had Indian kids, they brought Indian food. If I had
Yes.
Chinese kids, they brought Chinese food. So we just had a wonderful, I tried to make it be an all-purpose place. It was always a safe space. You could say or do anything, that as long as you didn't hurt somebody else in the room.
Right.
With your singing, which is I'd had talent shares, so that once a quarter I would have kids could sing anything they wanted to, as a solo or as a small ensemble. And the rule was you had to applaud whether they fell flat on their faces or not. You had to applaud their courage to stand up and sing in front of you.
Absolutely.
So that it became a cheering section for people who didn't sing well. But often I would find kids who were way in the back of the room. My concert choir, when I came to Roosevelt, was 143 kids.
Wow.
So you couldn't hear. I mean, I had to do quartets so I could hear each individual child, but sometimes they'd be nervous. But when they were singing a pop song or a church song or something,
Let it all go.
Often it's like, oh, that kid, I remember that's going to be a soloist for this next piece you're working on or something. So kids had a chance to show their talents and to be valued by their classmates.
Yeah, and which is so important. I think all the more now. That's one of the traditions that the young people shared with me that you had done, that I began to implement.
Good.
And that was it. Was a great success, as well as the food. As well as the food, like that was one of the first things that they told me. Like, if I said, "Oh, it's Christmas, let's do a party," they were like, "But we can't just have pizza and chips." Like Dr. Baker used to make sure we had food, and that was a blessing. I never let that go. I never let that one go. It was really good. I appreciate that. But as we are too, especially in the African American community and many other communities, when we get around each other and we're fellowshipping, food is the center.
It's the core.
Yes, it really is. And so many relationships are built off of breaking bread in that manner with one another. So, I mean, thank you so much. I will continue with that. You're in retirement. I personally don't believe that as an artist, that when we go into retirement, that we're really retired. I always tell people that my retirement, it will be official when the good Lord removes me from this earthly realm. And then I've transitioned to something else. Do you really, now, since you are retired 15 plus years, are you feeling that you have more time to do composing and, going off and being a clinician? Or are you having time more for the relaxation and self-care and self-love in the process?
Well, I know what retirement is for me. And
Mm,
and again, as I say, for me,
right.
retirement for me is being able to do what I want to do when I want to do it. I was offered a job shortly after I retired, and I said, "Do I have to come every day?" And they said, "Yes." I said, "Thanks, but no thanks."
Right. Oh,
Uh,
oh, I
so
need you to say that one more time because that is so important right
it
there.
was at a major private school here in the district, in
Yeah.
this area, and they said, "We'd really love for you to come and teach at our school." And I said, "Do I have to come every day?" And they said, "Yes." And I said, thanks so much, but no, because I knew that I wanted to take some time for myself.
Yes.
I still want to do the things. In fact, I did more traveling, and I haven't done it. I'm not really a composer. I arrange stuff for the choirs that I have to work with, but
Mhm, mhm.
so I don't have any tunes floating around in my head that I really want to get out there.
Right.
But I also know that I have a masseuse that I go see every month. I
Yes.
get a facial every month. I do slow motion weight training twice a week. And those are things that are critical to my survival. And I have to fit the rest of what I do in between those things.
Oh, that's good.
And
Yeah.
then at one point, I had I had three series season tickets to Kennedy Center opera, um, jazz, dance. I had season tickets to Olney Theater, Roundhouse Theater, Arena Stage. I was a Smithsonian associate. It was like a busman's holiday. I got to go see all the things that I didn't get to see when I was working 5 days a week, plus
Yeah.
on Sundays.
Yeah.
And so I decided that I needed to try to catch up with some of the things that I had missed.
Mm.
So one year I went to see Alvin Ailey once, and then the next year I went to see him twice, and then the next year I went to see 3 times
Wow.
while they were here. Then I realized 3 times is too much, so I went just twice a year. So, but again, those are things that I really wanted to go see. And if something came into town that I wanted to go see, it was like, hey, I'm going to see that.
Yeah.
So I think that we as musicians often get so caught up in making our own music that we forget to go and listen and see and experience music done by others.
Very
And
true.
we need that kind of support as well. So I was able to get to do all the fun things that I had neglected while I was teaching because I didn't
Mhm.
have time or energy. I
Yeah.
mean, when you've worked all day, and like I said, I got locked in the building one night because I was there till 8. And then you get home and you do dinner, you're tired. You don't want to go anywhere.
Boston. No.
So you have to find time to keep a balance. And maybe I went overboard those first few years, but I have tried to find a balance in my retirement, which is do the fun things that you really want to do. Since I've been retired, I've been to Scotland twice, Ireland
Wow.
twice, to Indonesia, to Toronto and Vancouver, and I've cruised to the Canadian Maritimes, to um, Alaska, and the Bahamas, and just do the things that really give you rest, relaxation, and inspiration.
Yeah.
And I think that while I still sing, I sing with the Washington Women's Chorale.
Mhm.
I sing in my church choir. I'm the bereavement chair at my church, so I get the comfort choirs together. I often am the substitute organist at my church. I've substituted for my friends, not too often because I'm usually doing stuff at my church. So I try to give back in a way that now that I have the time to do. But I tell people I only have 10 pieces on the organ that I can play at the top of the hat. And those 10 pieces, once I'm done with that, don't be asking me to play anything else because I don't want to practice. I keep those 10 fingers. And if you say, Barbara, sit down and play the box, oh, I got it. God, no problem.
Right. Outside of that, don't bother you. I appreciate though that you said that those self-care items, you schedule that and everything else around it.
Around that, yes.
I think that's key. And I really am, I'm attempting to learn how to do that now. So, because it is so important, but that to me is key. Just put it in the schedule. Just do it. Just make that happen.
Well,
You
you
know?
know how many times often you after the time has passed, you say, "You know what? I should have,
Mm,
or
yeah,
I meant to."
I
Uh,
meant I
and
meant
and those kinds of regrets are just terrible to hear people say, "I really intended to." And
yes.
so all I can say is to anybody listening to this is schedule the things that are important to you. Schedule them.
Yeah.
If you don't schedule them, they won't happen. Because if you think, well, I'll get around to it, that won't happen.
I've said
You
that
know,
a million times.
everything else will crowd its way into your
Yeah.
life. And everybody else's emergencies become your emergencies and your problems because they will dump their stuff on you. So you
Yeah.
have to say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I have an appointment that day, or I can't do this, or I must do that." And then if there's time left over for that, or sometimes you have to say, "You need to talk to a therapist. Let me give you the name of a really good one who can help you with that problem because that sounds like it's really serious, you know."
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, I the second to the last part, I'm really good at letting people know, no, your emergency is not mine. And no, can't do that. And that it took moments to get to that space, but I enjoy being able to say no to many of things and many of people, you know, because it saves my peace of mind as well. And it saves my energy, like, all because when I give of myself, I'm giving all of me into whatever it is. And I don't want to be pulled and stretched into spaces that I just don't have the breath for it, the breadth breath to manage that. You talked about like going out to shows, and I often wonder, like, I want to be able to do that, and I find it hard too to like just enjoy shows without being so critical. Like, I want to go to a performance and not critique. I want my ear to just relax. Are you there? Are you able to do that? To just listen?
it took me a minute,
Mm,
but really, I realized that I think we all have to show grace.
yeah, yeah.
And as I say, most of the time, the people on the stage are doing the very best that they can. You don't know. Wicked is my favorite musical. I've seen
Mhm.
it 4 times. I saw it once in Chicago,
There you go.
3 times here.
Yeah.
And when I went this last time back in December, there were a lot of people who were understudies who were in the cast. So I talked to one of the cast members and I said, "So why is that?" He said, "Well, when we left Denver," he said, "everybody got COVID. So we had to, and I said, "So what's it like being on the road?" And he said, I haven't lived in my house in New York in a year." And I thought, "Oh my."
Mm,
So they're doing the best they can.
yeah,
And so I realized that I am there to enjoy and to support.
yeah.
I'm not there as nobody's paying me to be the music critic.
Right.
And yes, I've heard performances that were less than stellar, but I've also seen some really, wow,
Yeah.
performances that were just dynamite. And that's why you go. You go to support them. So maybe they'll get it better the next night. And
Yeah.
again, that goes along with my philosophy, which is you do the best you can on that day.
On that
The best
day.
they could do. I know they didn't come out there to say, "I'm going to sing badly."
Right. I'm
Or,
gonna really mess this one up.
yeah, or you don't know if they've been struggling with vocal issues, like if they've gotten dry throat or, getting over a cold, or, they're just exhausted. So that
Exhausted.
dance
Yeah,
routine didn't go quite like they wanted. But for the most part, we have wonderful theater here in Washington.
we
So
do.
I certainly encourage all of you to get out and see some live theater, hear some music. I can't tell you how exciting it is to have heard a wonderful performance and to leave the theater humming a tune,
Yes.
you know.
Yeah. That's that hopefulness, that joy that
Yeah,
we're filled with.
finding joy.
Yeah, finding joy.
Yeah,
That's important. Um, in the next 10 years, with the things that you have in your mind, the visions that you have, you have a birthday coming up
I
next
do.
week. Where do you see yourself? Where do you hope to be? Are there more goals that you're trying to achieve, or right now?
Well, yes,
What?
I want to be the best grandmother that I can. I have
Right. Yes.
Wesley is 8, he'll be 9 in September, and Julian is 4, he'll be 5 in July, and Naomi is 1 and almost 2, she'll be 2 in May. I want to be the best grandmother that I can. I'm getting ready to do some writing. One of my friends and colleagues has just been badgering me for the last 6 years that I need to write something, and so I thought,
Mhm.
well, okay, I'll do it. So I'm planning to do some writing. Um, I love to sing, so I sing with Leona
Yes.
Lowry Fitzhugh
Yep.
with the Washington Women's Chorale, and that gives me great joy.
Yes.
So I hope to continue that. I hope I've got 20 more good years. That's what I'm counting on.
Mhm.
I live in a house, and so there are always things that have to be done in the house.
Yes, Lord.
So I'm trying to get it, comfortable for me, and that I can enjoy my later years. And I'm hopeful that someone will just appreciate how I tried.
Mm.
That and say, Barbara tried. She did the best she could.
Yeah. I personally will say a whole lot more than just the word try.
Oh.
Just a whole lot more than that. What would you share with the educators, the music educators of today? What piece of advice can you leave with them?
Well, besides self-care, and it's never too early to start self-care.
Yeah.
Everybody needs to have somebody that knows your body, your chiropractor, your masseuse. Somebody needs, you need somebody that you can always go to when you're having, because conducting and teaching are stressful on the body. So you need to be able to go and get physical relief.
Mhm.
I would say invest in your profession. As I said, there's
Mhm.
no lawyer that has no books. And if you walk into your office and there are no music books around, there are no treatises on things, there are no theory books, there are no educational books, you need to go buy some and invest, because even as no matter how good you are, there's somebody who knows more than you,
Yeah.
and
Agree.
and probably wrote a book about it,
Right.
and they're willing to share. So you'd be surprised at how you can gain just little tidbits that might help you um, uh, in your life.
Mhm.
Some of the best advice I got was from Anna Devere Smith, uh,
Mm.
letters to a young artists that were just fabulous.
Remember you said
I
that.
try to read as much as I can, read things that sometimes have nothing to do with music, but every now and then you can learn a lesson from them.
Yeah.
Um, I just bought a book about we talk too much, we need to listen more. About a
I
guy
need
named
to read that one.
his name is Lyons. Yes, I bought his book, and I bought another book about being the change that you want to see.
Yes.
And just these are I can't say self-help books, but they may offer some different options for you as you age, and just take care of each other, take care of your colleagues. Sometimes a colleague is in trouble and you don't know what to do, but sometimes just a call, be the change that you want to see.
Yeah.
I often say sometimes I try to do the things that I think I want, and sometimes when nobody's calling me, then I just pick up the phone and call somebody,
Right.
and have a little visit with them, and that makes me feel better and makes the person that I call feel better.
Yeah.
So just little things that with your choirs, choose a few little things that you want to work on to make sure that everybody gets it and that they get better over the course of the year or the semester, or the time that you have them. And focus on those little things, because when you focus on the little things, it makes the bigger things get better.
Absolutely.
So whether it's diction, whether it's tone production,
Mm.
whether it's rhythm, whether it's just posture when you walk out on stage,
Yes.
whether it's choose something that you can work with your students, your choristers, your singers about, so that everybody gets better, and everybody gets better. I mean,
Yeah.
the whole group gets better.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, once some things are fixed, you don't have to focus on those. They open up other issues that you can focus on too. It's like, oh, I didn't know we needed to work on that because I was so busy struggling with that. And then once that gets fixed, okay,
Right.
now we can focus on this.
Right.
So
Right.
I think that's about it.
Yeah, that's full. That is that is full. And you know, I'm thinking about a lot of you know, just being in the space of being an adjudicator and seeing all these different choirs and ensembles come on stage. I mean, it's just the from the onset, and I know you used to do this with your choirs, telling them that you're being judged from the moment that you walk out,
Mhm.
and how much I really, really want other educators to know that too. And sometimes I'll share that in the mic, but everything, because it does something to how you think about your performance that's going to take place. You know, it changes the whole dimension of things. It changes your perspective on the music and how you're about to deliver it. And so you know, that is really important, and I hope that other music educators you know, can take that as a nugget and think about those outside of the music element characteristics that will help their overall program improve. Or just, I use the word gooder. It's my word. You can use it though.
Well, I think that breathing is the core of everything.
Yes.
And so I've never seen a choir where everybody was breathing their best that I
Right.
could see.
Right.
And without breathing, without the breath, then the tone is not going to be as good.
Yes.
So if you fix the breath, the tone gets better. If you fix the tone, then you can also focus on the rhythm. And so it's sort of like, as somebody said, the sweet spot in music is tone, is vowels. So you can fix the vowels. Once you get the tone, then you can fix the vowels. So
Hmm.
it's just a matter of choosing one little thing, and they're all the little things in the context of the whole totality of it all. But if
Right.
you choose something that you want to improve on, and you really focus on getting that better, and
Yeah,
now it won't change in a day, it won't change in a week, it may not change in a year, but you have to start somewhere.
that's it.
Often the incremental improvements make everything else better.
Yeah.
Once a child or a person sees it, well, shucks, I have some effect over what happens here. If I breathe better, if I get better vowels, if I get better diction, all of a sudden my singing sounds a lot better than it did before, you know.
It's an
So,
amazing,
and
it's an
I always
amazing.
tried to stretch students by using stuff that they didn't know. Like I almost never sang things in English a lot.
Mm,
I tried to sing, we sang in Swahili, in
yeah,
Serbian, in Russian,
yeah,
Spanish, French, German, Italian,
yeah.
in Japanese. I tried to sing, so nobody was an expert on that except somebody who's really studied that language.
Right.
And often they, even though they could speak the language, they don't know how to sing in the language. So
Different.
you're the expert in the room,
Mhm.
so whether you know it or not, you're the expert in the room, and so they're going to follow what you do. So you get everybody's attention immediately when you're starting to sing foreign languages.
Mhm.
So all of a sudden, it's like, oh, when we sang in Welsh, Welsh has bilateral sibilants. So you could say, "Orfiachen fiebig velen, suina athkena." Pardon me.
Mhm.
So I would tell the children, sing, talk to each other in the hallway using your Welsh.
Oh, wow.
So they would greet each other like, Dr. Alice Elysium or or just any kind of thing so that they distinguish
Yes,
themselves from their classmates, but they also were learning the
the
repertoire.
language. Yeah.
And one of the proudest moments I've ever had was
Mm.
the year that my concert choir sang the Brahms Schicksalslied Lead and the Haydn Te Deum from memory with the Prince
Wow.
George's Philharmonic.
Wow.
And those children, I mean, they rose to the occasion.
Yeah.
And I was just thrilled that these concert choir kids did not. At that time, I always made my chamber choir kids, they had to take two choirs. If you sang in chamber choir, you had to take concert choir and chamber choir.
Mhm.
So I did have some very fine singers in there, but for the most part, chamber choir was 16, the concert choir was 150.
Right.
So you got a lot of kids who just, for whatever reason, that's the only singing they're going to get. And when we sang that with Prince George's Philharmonic,
Mhm.
it was a real watershed for my program. And I just thought, they really they rose to the occasion.
Yeah.
Really excited about that.
Proud moment. I was gonna ask you that too, and then you just, shared that. Out of all the years that you have been doing that, I'm sure you've had many proud moments, and you can reflect on a whole lot of different situations, and hopefully they make you smile, and some of them they make you
Cringe.
cry with joy. Yes, the cringe moments are definitely there, but you have left such a remarkable impact in the Roosevelt community, the Greenbelt community, and you continue to do that. And I am just so elated that, we're getting to know each other more and more on a personal level and not just as colleagues. And so thank you so much for being able to open yourself and your schedule and share a little bit more about who you are and all that it is that you are doing. You have a world of support. You
Oh.
have a world of support, and definitely I'm half of the world that's supporting you.
Well, thank you, Michelle. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no. I really do appreciate who you are and the legacy that you are leaving right here in so many of the educators who will be able to glean from you and to receive whatever it is they need from this conversation, and hopefully others that they can have with you. How can people, if they want to be in contact with you, perhaps somebody wants you to come out and to guest clinician and all the other things. How can they reach Dr. Barbara Baker?
My email, BarbaraWBaker@hotmail.com.
All right, there we go.
Then
All
don't
right.
forget the W. It's important.
Don't forget the W.
3,000 Barbara Bakers.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, thank you so much, friend. I
It's been a
appreciate
joy.
your time. And for those of you who have been listening and watching, don't forget to go on out here and to share, like, love, subscribe, all the wonderful things, especially this particular interview with Dr. Barbara Baker. I know that you grab something from it, and other people as well too. So until the next time, peace and blessings.